The air under the Oshodi bridge was dusty and loud, full of horns, footsteps, and talk. In the middle of it all, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided to a stop, like it had taken a wrong turn into another world. The back door opened. A tall man stepped out, wearing a spotless white kaftan and a bright red cap. People whispered his name before he even spoke. Jonathan Anderson. Yes, that Jonathan, billionaire CEO of NatTech, the star of business magazines, the man everyone said had everything. He didn't look at the crowd. He knelt beside a girl sitting on a folded carton near a concrete pillar. Her hair was messy and beautiful in a wild way. Her ash-colored gown was torn at the edges. Her name was Amara. "I've been watching you," Jonathan said softly, so the sound of Lagos had to make space for his words. "Today, I've decided to make you my wife." People gasped. Some laughed like it was a prank. Some held their breath. But Jonathan didn't look away. He spoke to Amara like there was no one else there. "I believe I can change your story," he said. "And I believe you can change mine." Amara's lips trembled. She wrapped her right arm around his neck as he lifted her off the ground. With her left hand, she covered part of her face, shy and shocked. The white of his kaftan brushed against the dust of her dress. And people took a step closer, eyes wide. "This day," Jonathan said, voice steady, "I accept you as my wife. I promise to protect you, to be your husband, and to make you happy." He slid a glittering ring onto her finger. It caught the light like a small star in the shadow of the bridge. "Is this a ritual?" someone whispered. "He wants to use her," another person muttered, but Jonathan didn't answer the crowd. He carried Amara to the car like she was the only truth in a world of noise, placed her gently in the back seat, and the Rolls-Royce pulled away toward Lekki. In the shocked silence they left behind, a question hung heavy. Why would a billionaire marry a homeless girl today, right here, with the world watching? Hours earlier, before the car door and the ring, Jonathan had been alone in his office, high above Lagos, looking down at a city that loved him and judged him in equal measure. At 45, he had awards, a company that reached across Africa, and a name that opened doors. But his nights were never quiet. He had been married twice. He had dreamed twice. Both dreams ended the same way, no child. Doctors checked him again and again. "You're fine, Mr. Anderson," they said. "Medically, nothing is wrong." He divorced Juliet, his first wife, after 4 long years of hope. He ended things with Sandra, the second, after 5. People talked, they always do. Money makes noise, but so does pain. Some said his wealth came with a price. Some said he had given up his chance to be a father to become rich. He heard it. He kept working. He kept crying when no one was there to see. That night, the city lights looked like scattered prayers. Jonathan made a choice. If doors are closed, try a door no one can see. If logic fails, try faith. If fear speaks, speak louder. He would marry a girl no one would choose for him. He would choose kindness, not status. He would choose a heart that understood loss. He would go where people forgot to look for miracles. He chose Oshodi. When the Rolls-Royce stopped in front of his Lekki mansion, the gate opened at once. The house was all glass and light, tall palms waving like gentle guards. Staff ran out, then froze, not sure what to do or say. Jonathan helped Amara out of the car. She looked small compared to the tall doors and the shining floors inside. "Welcome home," he said. Her room was ready, new clothes in soft colors, designer shoes lined up like tiny soldiers, bags, lotions, a vanity table with lights like a stage. On the bed sat a folded note. "You are seen." The tears came before she could stop them. "Why me?" she asked, not looking up. Both hands covering her face now, the new ring warm against her cheek. "Why would you do this for me?" Jonathan told her the truth. He told her about the empty rooms of his life. He told her about the names people called him and the nights he cried. He told her he wanted a family and a real chance at joy. Amara listened, eyes shining. When he finished, she took a deep breath and nodded, as if she had been holding up a heavy roof all by herself, and someone finally came to add another pillar. "God will give us children," she said simply. Jonathan blinked hard and smiled for the first time that day. "Tell me about you," he said. So she told him. About a plane crash that took both of her parents in one terrible day. about an uncle who sold the house and threw her out, about friends who slipped away when the money did, about how she had finished secondary school at the top of her class, then fell through the cracks until the concrete of the underbridge became her floor and the sky became her ceiling. Jonathan cried for her the way he had cried for himself, but this time the tears didn't feel lonely. Life in the mansion adjusted around her like a well-sewn dress. The maids learned the sound of her laugh. The chef learned she liked hot tea, even in warm weather. The driver learned she liked to sit by the window, watching trees flash by like green flags. Lagos moved fast outside. Inside, time felt like it had been taught to breathe. 1 month later, Amara woke up before sunrise with a feeling she couldn't name, like a quiet drum tapping once inside her belly. The house slept. She stood in the bathroom, hands on the cool edge of the sink, eyes on the small test in front of her. 2 lines. She stared, looked away, looked again. The second line was just as bright the third time. Her breath came in little pieces. "Jonathan," she whispered, then louder. "Jonathan." He ran in, tie half done, heart in his throat. She held up the test with a shaking hand. He didn't speak. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he was already crying. "Thank you," he said, to her, to God, to the quiet morning. He picked her up and spun her just once, like a careful dance. The staff clapped in the hallway, not even sure what they were clapping for, only that joy had come in with the light. They went to the hospital the next day for a proper check. The doctor smiled when he saw them. He had seen Jonathan many times before, had said the same words many times before, but today felt different. "Let's do a scan," the doctor said. Amara lay back, gel, cold, a soft hum from the machine. Jonathan held her hand. The doctor's eyes changed as he moved the probe, first calm, then focused, then wide in a way that made Jonathan's heart jump. "I'm seeing," the doctor said, moving the probe again, counting something only he could see. Jonathan squeezed Amara's fingers. "Seeing what?" The doctor looked at them, then back at the screen, then back at them. He smiled, then laughed in a way that made the nurse in the corner cover her mouth. "Mr. Anderson," the doctor said, voice warm and shaking. "It's not just 1. Jonathan forgot to breathe." 2? The doctor shook his head, tears starting in his eyes now too. "I'm seeing 3 heartbeats," he said. 3. The room went very, very still right before joy exploded. Amara lay on the hospital bed, the gel still cool on her stomach, while the doctor stared at the screen like it was a new sunrise. Jonathan held her hand with both of his, breathing shallow, afraid to blink. "I'm seeing 3 heartbeats," the doctor said again, slower this time so their hearts could catch up. "Triplets." For a moment, nobody moved. Then joy broke open like light through a curtain. Jonathan kissed Amara's forehead. The nurse clapped and wiped her eyes. Amara laughed and covered her face with her left hand, the same shy way she did under the bridge. She reached for Jonathan and pulled his ear to her lips. "God answered," she whispered. News moved fast. By the time they reached the car, the hospital staff knew. By evening, Lagos knew. Some people typed warm wishes, others typed poison. "It's fake. He bought it. Ritual children. Don't be fooled." Jonathan saw a few of the comments by accident. He shut off his phone and turned to Amara. "Whatever they say, we know the truth," he said. "We will protect our peace." He meant it, and he kept his promise. He turned the mansion into a shield and a soft place all at once. He hired 2 extra security guards and 3 nannies with gentle voices. He made the chef learn Amara's cravings: ripe mango at midnight, jollof rice for breakfast, okra soup with extra fish, even when she only took 2 spoons. Every week, they went to the hospital for a check. The doctor explained everything in simple words. "Triplets are a blessing," he said. "But they are a big job for a small body. We will be careful." So they were careful. They walked slowly together on the lawn in the evenings. They kept music soft and sweet inside the house. They prayed. Sometimes Jonathan pressed his ear to Amara's stomach and talked to the babies like they could already hear him. "Hello, champions," he would say. "It's Daddy. I'm here. I love you. I'm waiting." At night, when the city quieted just a little, Amara told him stories of her parents, how her mother would hum as she cooked. how her father would lift her onto his shoulders and call her pilot, because he believed she could fly anywhere she wanted. He was right, Jonathan said, holding her hand. You're flying now. The months turned like pages. The bump grew. The room for the babies slowly filled with tiny clothes, soft blankets, and 3 cribs side by side like little boats ready for a gentle sea. Jonathan tried to build one of the cribs himself. He got the screws wrong. The head nanny laughed kindly. "Sir, let me help," she said. "I want to earn extra father points." He joked, handing her the tiny wrench. There were high moments that felt like holidays. The day they heard all 3 heartbeats together again. The day the babies kicked so strongly that Jonathan jumped and then laughed at himself. The day Amara stood in the mirror, hands on her stomach, and said, "You are not alone anymore." And Jonathan whispered, "Neither am I." But there were low moments, 2 small storms that tested their calm. At 7 months, Amara woke with a strange tightness in her lower belly. It came and went like a tide. The driver flew down the Lekki road like a silent prayer on wheels. At the hospital, the doctor checked quickly and spoke calmly. "Your body is practicing," he said. "It's too early. We will help it. Wait." They gave her medicine. They kept her overnight. Jonathan didn't leave her side. He sat in the hospital chair, fingers laced with hers. And when she fell asleep, he stayed awake and told the ceiling everything he hadn't said yet. "Please," he murmured. "I know you hear me. Help us finish this road." They made it through the night. The tightness eased. The doctor smiled in the morning. "Good teamwork," he said. "Now, rest." They went home to an even softer house. The staff spoke in a happy whisper. The guard at the gate smiled wider. The gardener trimmed the flowers in careful shapes like little hearts. One afternoon, the past came knocking. Not in person, in a video. A blogger posted a clip from under the bridge the day of the proposal, added wild music, and said, "Billionaire marries homeless girl for power." Another post showed Jonathan's first 2 weddings side by side and wrote, "Third time is a charm, or a charm." The comments were hot. Some people defended them. Some threw stones with words. Amara saw the video by accident. She set the phone down and pressed her palms to her eyes. For a second, the old feeling returned, the feeling of concrete under her, sky above her, and a world that didn't want to see her as she was. Jonathan found her and knelt, just like he did under the bridge. "Look at me," he said gently. She did. "We don't have to prove anything," he said. "We will let our life speak." So they did. They turned the phones face down and turned their faces toward each other. They picked baby names. They read the same page of a small book about parenting and laughed at how simple it sounded. "Sleep when the babies sleep," the book said. "What if the babies sleep at different times?" Jonathan asked. Amara hit the pillow with her fist and laughed. At 8 months, the doctor started checking them twice a week. "We're close," he said. "You've done very well." At 9 months, close turned into now. It began at sunrise, a wave of pain, but steady and sure, not like the 7-month scare. Amara held Jonathan's hand and breathed the way the nurse had taught her, slow in, slow out, like the tide. The house moved like a team. The bag was ready. The driver was ready. The hospital was ready. In the delivery room, the lights were bright and clean. The doctor nodded at the nurse. The nurse nodded at Amara. Jonathan kissed Amara's knuckles and whispered the names they had picked, as if each name was a light he was switching on. "Jacob," he said. "Joshua. Juliet." Hours stretched and folded. Pain tugged and let go. Amara rested between waves, and in those short, quiet places, she saw her mother's face in her mind and heard her father's voice say, "Pilot." She smiled. "We're landing," she whispered. Then the room changed. A quick flurry. A deeper focus. The doctor's voice grew firm and kind. "Here comes baby 1, he said. A cry, small and sharp and perfect. Jonathan's tears came without asking him first. "Jacob," he breathed. "Baby 2. The doctor said. Another cry, eager and strong. "Joshua, baby 3. The doctor said, softer now, almost a prayer. A softer cry, then a louder one, as if Juliet changed her mind about being quiet. The nurse laughed through her own tears. "She will tell this house what to do," she said. They placed the babies on Amara's chest, one at a time, then together for a moment. 3 tiny faces, 3 little hands reaching for air and warmth and milk. Jonathan kissed them each on the forehead, then kissed Amara's forehead last. "You did it," he whispered. "You did it." Lagos did what it always does. It shouted, it danced, it argued, it made noise like a drumline. Some people posted, "Congratulations," with 100 heart emojis. Some asked for pictures. Some demanded proof. "DNA test!" A loud corner of the internet shouted, like a chant. Jonathan kept the room quiet. The babies slept. Amara slept. He stood by the window and watched the city lights blink like tiny yeses in the dark. They went home 2 days later. The gate opened. The staff cheered softly. The nannies moved like angels. The nursery became the center of the house. There were midnight feedings and dawn yawns and tiny socks that went missing and turned up in the laundry like shy birds. Motherhood was hard work, but the nannies made it smoother, like a road after rain. Amara learned to change 3 diapers in a row without losing her smile. Jonathan learned to hold 2 babies while burping one. When one cried, sometimes all 3 cried. And when all 3 cried, they laughed at themselves. Because what else could you do? The naming ceremony was set for a Saturday. White canopies, fresh flowers, family, friends, a small choir. The chef planned jollof, fried rice, peppered chicken, and puff-puff that melted on the tongue. Jonathan's board members sent gifts, tiny laptops made of chocolate, toy robots with soft edges, baby blankets stitched with NatTech. That morning, the sun came out early like a proud guest. Amara wore a simple white lace dress. Jonathan wore white again with a red cap because he said it reminded him of promises. The babies wore white too, each with a tiny bracelet. J for Jacob, J for Joshua, J for Juliet. As guests arrived, phones stayed mostly in pockets. Jonathan had requested it politely. "Let's keep this for the children," he'd said. People respected that. Music drifted. Laughter rose and fell. For a moment, the world felt exactly right. Then the gate guard walked in fast, face tight. "Sir, madam," he said, voice low. "There is a man at the gate with 2 policemen and a lawyer. He says he's family. He says he has papers." Jonathan's smile cooled but didn't break. "Who is he?" he asked. The guard swallowed. "He says he is Madam's uncle." Amara's fingers went cold around the baby bottle. The world tilted, just a little. The man who sold her father's house. The man who threw her out. The man who laughed while she begged. "What papers?" Jonathan asked, steady. The guard looked down. "He says the house your father left was never fully sold. He says there is a debt. He says..." The guard's voice fell even lower. "The debt is now yours. He says if you cannot pay today, he will seize valuables. He says the babies must stay inside until it is settled." The music outside kept playing, light and sweet, not knowing the room had gone heavy. Amara stood up, heart racing, and the babies stirred. The uncle's voice echoed from the gate, loud now for all to hear. "Bring out the children or pay what you owe." The words hit Amara like a slap. "Bring out the children or pay what you owe." Guests shifted uncomfortably under the white canopy, glancing at one another. The choir's gentle hymn faltered, one voice breaking mid-note. Jonathan's grip on the baby's bottle tightened until his knuckles whitened. Inside the mansion, the air felt too small, like it couldn't hold what had just been said. Amara's heart pounded against her ribs, each beat a warning. This was the man who had thrown her into the street, who had stripped her of everything after her parents' death. And now he had come into her new life, dressed in power and threat. The head nanny quietly took the triplets from Amara's arms, moving them toward the nursery with the careful steps of someone carrying glass. Jonathan's voice was low, but edged with steel. "Amara," he said, "stay with the children." She shook her head, her voice trembling but certain. "No, I need to face him." Jonathan's eyes held hers for a moment, measuring, deciding, then he gave a small nod. "Then we face him together." They walked to the gate, the guests watching from their seats, as if the aisle had shifted from wedding joy to a trial. Outside, Amara's uncle stood in a dusty brown agbada, flanked by 2 stern-faced policemen and a short, sharp-eyed lawyer. His lips curled in the same smirk she remembered from years ago. "Well," he said, scanning the mansion behind them, "you've done well for yourself. Rich husband, fancy house, but debts don't disappear just because you married money." Jonathan's voice was calm, but each word landed like a stone. "You sold her father's house after their death. You took the money and threw her out. What debt are you talking about?" The uncle's lawyer stepped forward, holding a folded sheaf of papers. The original land on which the property was built was under a 10-year leasehold with unpaid dues. The lease expired, the debt stands. This, he held up the paper like it was a trophy, is the proof. Amara stared at the papers, heat crawling up her neck. She had been 17 when she was kicked out. She didn't understand contracts then. She only understood hunger and cold. Jonathan took the papers without asking permission, scanning each page with quick, precise eyes. Then he smiled, slow, dangerous. "This is fake," he said. "I know the man who signed the original documents for that land. He died 6 years ago." The lawyer blinked, but the uncle stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough for only Amara and Jonathan to hear. "I don't care if it's fake. If you don't pay me 5 million naira today, I'll make sure the media hears every filthy story I can make up about her, and those children. You know how Lagos loves a scandal." Jonathan's jaw tightened. Amara could feel the tension radiating from him, but before she could speak, he turned to the policeman. "Officers," he said evenly, "do you have a court order for this visit?" They exchanged glances. One shook his head slightly. "No, sir. We came because he claimed it was urgent." "Then you can leave," Jonathan said, "and take this man with you. If he returns without a court order, he'll be trespassing." The uncle's smirk faltered. "You think money can—" Jonathan stepped closer, his voice low and final. "This is your last warning. You stole from her once. You will not steal from her again." By the time the policeman led the uncle away, the guests outside had fallen into a cautious silence, eyes following every move. The choir began to sing again, softly at first, as if to stitch the air back together. Inside, Amara leaned against the wall, her knees suddenly weak. Jonathan wrapped his arms around her, pressing his cheek to her hair. "He can't touch you," he whispered. "Not anymore." But as the guests settled back into their seats and the naming ceremony resumed, a shadow lingered over the bright morning. Amara knew her uncle. He wasn't the type to walk away quietly. 2 weeks later, the first sign came. A gossip blog posted a grainy photo of Amara at the hospital with Jonathan during her pregnancy checkups. The caption screamed, "From under the bridge to the billionaire's bed, Amara Anderson's shocking past." The comment section was a war zone. Some defended her, others spat venom. Old rumors about Jonathan's inability to father children resurfaced, mixed now with cruel suggestions about the triplets' paternity. That night, as the triplets slept, Amara scrolled through the comments until Jonathan gently took the phone from her. "Don't feed the fire," he said, but she had already seen one comment that made her chest tighten. "Ask for DNA. Let's see if they're even his." The next morning, a letter arrived in a plain envelope. No stamp, no sender, just her name in sharp black ink. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "If you want your peace, take the test, or the truth will find its way out." Amara stared at it, her hands trembling. Jonathan found her still sitting on the bed when he came in from a call. She handed him the paper without a word. His eyes scanned it once, twice. Then he folded it neatly and set it on the nightstand. "They want a reaction," he said. "They won't get one." But that night, long after Amara had fallen asleep, Jonathan stood at the window staring into the dark, his mind racing, because part of him, the part that had been hurt twice before, wondered if taking the test might silence the world once and for all. The next morning, without telling Amara, Jonathan called his doctor and said quietly, "I need a private paternity test. No one can know, not even her." The morning after Jonathan made the call, Lagos was just waking up, buses honking, radios humming, streets filling like streams after rain. Inside the Anderson mansion, everything seemed normal. The triplets were in their playpen, Amara was humming softly in the kitchen, and Jonathan was dressed sharply for a quick meeting in Victoria Island. But it wasn't a meeting. In the back seat of his Rolls-Royce, Jonathan stared at the small insulated bag beside him. Inside was a sealed envelope, 3 tiny cotton swabs, and the heavy silence of his decision. He kept telling himself it wasn't about doubt, it was about shutting the mouths of gossipers forever. But deep down, a part of him hated that he was even doing this behind Amara's back. At the clinic, the doctor greeted him without ceremony. "You want this done quietly," the doctor said, closing the blinds. "Yes, no records in the public system," Jonathan replied. They collected the samples from the triplets later that afternoon under the guise of a routine health check. The babies didn't even cry, just wriggled and stared at the ceiling. Jonathan smiled at them, but inside he felt like he was walking a thin wire above a storm. When it was over, the doctor assured him, "You'll have results in 10 days, 10 days, 10 days to carry a secret, 10 days to smile at Amara without letting his eyes betray him." The first crack came on day 3. Amara noticed the way Jonathan stared at the triplets, sometimes longer than usual, almost as if he was studying their faces. "Is something wrong?" she asked one evening, handing him Juliet after her bath. "No," he said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just thinking how lucky I am." She kissed Juliet's forehead and gave him a look that seemed to see more than he wanted. "Then stop looking like you're waiting for bad news." Her words stung, but he brushed them off. On day 6, the uncle struck again. A package arrived at the gate, wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside was a single framed photo. Amara at 17, standing outside her parents' former home, her clothes dusty, her eyes red from crying. On the back, in messy handwriting, "She's always been good at acting." Jonathan smashed the frame against the desk, shards scattering like the thoughts in his head. Day 10 came faster than he expected. The results were ready. He sat alone in his study, the envelope heavy in his hands. Outside, the triplets were giggling as Amara played with them in the living room. He could hear her laugh, soft, genuine, the kind of laugh you can't fake. His fingers trembled as he tore the seal. The paper slid out like it didn't know it could break a man. He scanned the first line, then the second. His eyes widened. His breath caught. Paternity confirmed, 99.999%. All 3 children are biologically related to Jonathan Anderson. Relief crashed over him like a wave, so strong it almost knocked him back in the chair. He pressed the paper to his forehead, laughing and crying all at once. The storm was over, at least in his heart, but as he stood to put the papers away, the door to the study opened. Amara stood there, holding Juliet in her arms. Her eyes dropped to the paper in his hand, then to the torn envelope on the desk. The smile faded from her face. "What is that?" she asked, her voice low. Jonathan froze. "Jonathan," she said again, stepping into the room, her gaze locked on his. "Tell me you didn't." The baby shifted in her arms, sensing the tension. "I can explain," he started, but the words felt thin. Amara's eyes glistened, not with rage, but with something heavier, hurt. "You promised me we'd face things together," she said, her voice breaking. "But you tested our children behind my back." Before he could answer, the sound of tires screeched outside. The head guard's voice shouted from the front gate. Jonathan moved to the window. A convoy of 3 black SUVs had pulled up, their engines still running. Men in dark suits stepped out, one of them carrying a black briefcase. The leader looked up at the mansion and smiled, not warmly, but like a man who already knew he was inside the winning circle. The guard's voice rang out, urgent. "Sir, they say they have a court order, and it's about the children." The sound of the engines rumbled through the air like distant thunder. Amara clutched Juliet tighter, her breath uneven. Jonathan's mind raced. Court order. About the children? He strode toward the door, but Amara grabbed his arm. "You're not going out there without me," she said. They stepped into the front yard together, the mansion's gates looming ahead. The SUVs were still idling, the heat from their engines mixing with the Lagos sun. The men in dark suits stood like chess pieces, perfectly still but ready to move. The leader, a tall, lean man with skin the color of polished ebony and a face carved in stone, held up a folder. "Mr. Anderson," he called out, "we have a court order granting temporary custody of your 3 children to their biological guardian, pending investigation." Amara's heart dropped. "What biological guardian?" she demanded. The man's gaze shifted to her. "Your uncle, madam." A wave of shock rolled over the staff, who had gathered at a distance. Whispers spread fast, sharp as knives. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice steady but edged with fury. That man is a thief. He is no guardian, and no court in this country would take children from a living mother and father without cause. The man in the suit opened the folder and read aloud. Cause cited. Paternity in question. Legitimacy under dispute. Custody to be granted to maternal kin until matter is resolved. Amara's eyes widened. She turned to Jonathan, her voice trembling. This is because of the test. Jonathan's jaw clenched. The results prove. They don't know that, she cut in. Because you kept it secret. The truth of it hit him like a punch. His silence had left a crack, and her uncle had poured poison into it. The triplets were crying inside now, sensing the storm at the door. Amara felt her knees weaken, but Jonathan's hand on her back held her steady. The leader snapped his fingers, and two men stepped toward the gate. We can do this the easy way, he said, or we can come in. Jonathan took a deep breath and turned to the head guard. Close the gates. Nobody enters this property without my permission. The iron gates clanged shut, locking with a heavy finality. The leader's smile thinned. Defying a court order will only make things worse. Then I'll see you in court, Jonathan replied. That evening, the mansion became a war room. Lawyers filled the living room, spreading documents across the coffee table. One of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Barrister Ifeoma, flipped through the supposed court order with quick fingers. This, she said, tapping the paper, is a forgery. The seal is wrong. The signature belongs to a judge who retired 2 years ago. Relief rippled through the room, but Ifeoma didn't smile. It's still dangerous. Whoever forged this has connections. They'll try again. Amara sat on the couch, holding Jacob, while Juliet and Joshua slept in their cribs. She looked at Jonathan, her eyes a mix of pain and exhaustion. We can't keep living like this, waiting for the next attack. Jonathan nodded. Then we take the fight to him. 2 days later, they walked into the High Court of Lagos, hand in hand, with cameras flashing like lightning. Inside, the uncle sat at the opposite table, wearing an arrogant smile. But when Jonathan's lawyer laid the DNA results before the judge sealed, certified, undeniable, the smile faded. The judge read the papers, then looked up sharply. The paternity is confirmed. The children remain with their parents. Any further attempts to claim otherwise will be treated as criminal harassment. A murmur filled the courtroom. The uncle shifted in his seat, but the judge's voice cut through the air like a blade. This matter is closed. When they stepped out of the courthouse, the crowd outside erupted. Some cheered, others snapped photos. A reporter called out, "Mr. Anderson, what do you say to those who still doubt?" Jonathan didn't hesitate. He pulled Amara closer, his voice steady for the whole city to hear. I say my wife is my blessing, my children are my joy, and no amount of lies will change that. Amara's hand tightened in his, and for the first time in weeks, the weight on her chest felt lighter. Months later, life found its rhythm again. The triplets turned one, filling the mansion with laughter and little footsteps. The uncle vanished from their lives, his power broken. Jonathan and Amara often sat on the balcony in the evenings, watching the sunset spill gold across the city. You know, she said one night, resting her head on his shoulder, if you hadn't come under that bridge. He kissed her forehead. Then I'd still be empty, and the world would have missed the best miracle I've ever known. Downstairs, the triplets' laughter rang out like bells, wrapping the house in the sound of the future they had fought to keep. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.